والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، صلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله المبعوث رحمة للعالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Going on and mentioning the detachments and the expeditions that the Prophet ﷺ used to send out of Medina to intercept the caravans that the polytheists of Mecca used to send up north. One may have the question of, isn't this form of terrorizing people? Isn't this a form of aggression?
It's like a dictatorship, like going and robbing caravans. You know, back like how the English used to rob the rich and give to the poor.
Robin Hood, like
a Robin Hood style, yeah.
What do you think, Abdullah?
Yes, very similar to that. But how to view it, sometimes it might have justification.
Okay. I think that if you look at these incidents without revising the history,
yes,
that would not be very appropriate.
No.
We have to understand and know that these acts came after 13 years of continuous oppression. They have confiscated the properties of the Muslims in Mecca. They have kicked them out. They've oppressed them, tortured them, and in some incidents, they've killed them. So, after 13 years of being patient and tolerant, the only logical thing would be for them to fight back. And this is exactly what the Prophet ﷺ did. He fought back. And he started by threatening the economical benefits of the mushriks, of the polytheists, by intercepting their caravans. And among one of the expeditions of the Prophet ﷺ was the expedition of Safwan. And actually, this came as a retaliation of an attack on the second year of Hijrah by Kurz ibn Jabir al-Fihri. He was a disbeliever who came with some of his companions and looted the camels and sheep of the Muslims in Medina and fled. So the Prophet ﷺ went out in 70 of his men, of his companions, trying to pursue him and get whatever they have taken. Unfortunately, they were ahead in time and distance, so the Prophet ﷺ could not catch him, but they managed to pass by a valley that is called the Valley of Safwan, close to the area of Badr. And that is why this is called Badr the First. Now we have the big, or the grand battle of Badr, which was in the same vicinity, in the same area. This one was the first Badr.
The build-up to Badr. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't no build-up, because he was trying to catch Kurz ibn Jabir, but he missed him. So he was in the area. So the Prophet came back, ﷺ, without fighting anyone. But because he came to the area of Badr, they called this battle, or this expedition, the expedition of Safwan, which is a valley, or the expedition of Badr the First. Now, the Prophet ﷺ did not fight anyone. But this attack of Kurz ibn Jabir was considered to be an assault on the Muslims. Now it was a change of direction because it was the Muslims who were attacking the caravans. Now being attacked by these polytheists was a change of direction. On the 4th or the 5th month of the 2nd year, there was another detachment or another battle which was called Ghazwat Dhil Ashira. And this was to intercept a caravan that was going from Mecca to Asham. And the route was, off and on. A lot of caravans going and coming. And they had to take the same route. So the Prophet ﷺ went out with 150 of his companions. And some say 200 of his companions, trying to get and catch that caravan with all its wealth. And he discovered once he reached the area that he missed it by few days. So he took the opportunity and he signed a treaty of a mutual understanding not to assault each other with Bani Madlij, which was the tribe prevailing on that area. Now, this caravan that the Prophet ﷺ wanted to intercept is the same one that came from a Sham area from north, and it caused the battle of Badr. But this, of course, is not the time to go through this. In Rajab, there was another detachment that was sent, and this was led by the companion Abdullah ibn Jahsh, may Allah be pleased with him. He left Medina with 12 of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, the migrant companions of the Prophet. The Prophet ﷺ gave him a letter, and he told him, go south and do not open this letter until 2 days pass. That was very strange. You're going blindfolded to an area to fight people, to meet people you have no information about. Yet the companions complied. They left Medina. And after 2 days, he opened the letter. And he found in it that the Prophet ﷺ is telling him that you should go to a location between Mecca and Taif. It's called Nakhla. Nakhla means palm tree. But he instructed them to go to this area, which is known to be Nakhla, and to sort of spy. It was a reconnaissance mission to spy on the polytheists and to know their movement so that he can come back and report it to the Prophet ﷺ. They were not instructed to engage. So they went. And in that letter, the Prophet told him that you should give the choice to your companions and tell them, if you want to go on with me, you have the choice. If you want to go back to Medina, also the choice is yours, as written by the Prophet ﷺ. Now, the Prophet did not write. He was illiterate. So, when saying that, as written by the Prophet ﷺ, that he had someone else to do the writing for him. One would say, why would the Prophet ﷺ write a letter and ask the leader of that detachment not to open it except after 2 days? The answer would be, this would be realized if you look back into the detachments and the expeditions that were sent by the Prophet ﷺ to intercept the caravans. Every single time, they are a day or two late. Every single time. And this meant that there was probably someone leaking the information. So the hypocrites among the Muslims were there. So whenever they knew that the Muslims were going out, they would send a message
a warning
to warn the polytheists that the Muslims are coming. that is why the Prophet ﷺ did not want this to happen again. So he sent this detachment. No one knew where this detachment was going to. And 2 days later, they've opened the letter and they knew their destination. Now, when they reached that designated area of Nakhla, it was on the last day of Rajab. The holy, well, it's not a holy month, but it is, in a sense, a sacred month of the year. We have 4 months in the year that we are not allowed to fight in. It's called Al-Ashhur Al-Hurum, the forbidden months, or the sacred months. Well, the translation does not fit. So, these months, do any of you know what are they in Arabic? Well, Dhul Qa'dah is the first one. The second, which is number 11. Then you have Dhul Hijjah. Then you have Muharram, which is the first month in the lunar year. And then you have Rajab, which is the 7th month of the year. So you have 3 in a row, 11, 12, and 1. And then you have the 7th month, which is the month of Rajab.
I believe these months were also sacred before Islam.
That's very true. And why is that? Because the non-Muslims before Islam used to perform pilgrimage in the 3 months in a row, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and they would leave to their country on Muharram, the first month.
Yes.
And they also used to make Umrah in the month of Rajab. So these months were made sacred or made forbidden so that they would be safe to travel to Mecca and back.
That was a principle of the whole of Arabia.
That was the principle of the whole, that's true, of the whole of Arabia, that they were not to fight in these months. So they were faced with a caravan on the last day of Rajab. And Abdullah ibn Jahsh saw this caravan, and so also it was led by Ibn al-Hadrami. And they didn't know what to do. Amr ibn al-Hadrami. If they waited 1 more day, the caravan would go into the area of Haram, of Mecca, which is forbidden for them to attack anyone. And if they attack them now, they'll be attacking them in the sacred month. And this was a shame. This was something that would be a major sin among the Arabs who were not Muslim to begin with, but it was honored by everyone in Arabia. So they did not know what to do. And we, inshallah, will know what they did just right after the break. So stay tuned.
خيركم من تعلم القرآن وعلمه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا. Learning how to recite the Quran properly, learning the meaning of what we recite, including the ahkam from the verses which we recite, trying to implement what we learn in our daily life. We'll listen to the participants and the guests. We'll take your phone calls. We're going to recite live. We'll listen to your recitation and we'll correct it according to the rules and regulations which we'll state in each episode. Now your dream will come true.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. Again, we're talking about the expedition of Nakhla, the detachment of Nakhla. Abdullah ibn Jahsh, among 12 of his companions, they are stuck between a rock and a hard place. They are at the last day of Rajab, one of the sacred months. And this caravan is passing in front of their eyes with Amr ibn al-Hadrami and among other of his polytheist companions. If they wait one more day, they will enter the area of Haram, and they would not also be able to fight. So they discussed the issue among themselves, and they came to the conclusion that we should seize the moment and attack. So these 12 men attacked the caravan. They managed to kill Amr ibn al-Hadrami and capture 2 prisoners.
So it wasn't a big caravan.
It wasn't, well, the caravans at the time did not have a lot of guards with them, because the people of Mecca had treaties with all the tribes covering the route of trading. And everybody respected and feared the people of Mecca. They respected them because they were the custodians of their idols. And as we know, that the Kaaba, the Holy Mosque, had more than 360 idols surrounding it. And each idol was an idol of a tribe or so. And they feared the people of Mecca because they were knights and soldiers and professional army people, men of power and dignity. So they were afraid to attack their caravans. That's why they did not send a lot of protection with them.
Yeah, and also being the sacred month, they would not have expected to be attacked.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is also a good reason. So they attacked it, and they took the loot back to Medina. The minute they went into Medina, it was a window of opportunity for the Jews and the polytheists. They thought, how dare you do such a thing? It's the sacred month, and you did a very bad thing that even the polytheists themselves would not dare to do. And you claim to be men of peace, you claim to be men of religion and respecting the others and so on. And they started building up an argument that the Prophet ﷺ himself did not approve of it. He did not approve of what Abdullah ibn Jahsh did, because it was a sacred month of Rajab. So how did you do such a thing? And you can imagine what Abdullah ibn Jahsh and his companions may have felt. You know, everybody's against them, and even the Prophet ﷺ. And they did this out of good intention and for the cause of Islam. And not long afterwards, Allah the Almighty revealed the verses from the Quran. He revealed from the heavens these verses that explain and exempt them from any wrongdoing. Allah says in chapter 2, Surah Al-Baqarah, in ayah 217, they ask you concerning fighting in the prohibited month. Allah tells the Prophet, they ask you about fighting in the prohibited month, which is the month of Rajab. Say, fighting therein is a grave offense, but graver is it in the sight of Allah to prevent members, to prevent access to the sacred mosque. So now Allah is comparing fighting in the sacred or prohibited month to preventing access to His mosque.
No.
And this is what the polytheists did. So they prevented access to the sacred mosque also, and drive out its members.
So he's twisting the argument back on them.
Now priorities, set priorities. Okay, you're complaining? Look what you did. You drove out the members of that holy mosque. You kicked them out. You forced them to migrate. And also Allah says, tumult and oppression are worse than slaughter. Though one man died, but what you've done from oppression and causing this tumult among the people is far greater. Allah continues to say, nor will they cease fighting you until they turn you back from your faith if they can. So Prophet of Allah, you have to understand this. No matter what you do, they will always be against you until they succeed in turning you back on your faith if they can. And if any of you turn back from their faith and die in unbelief, their works will bear no fruit in this life, and in the hereafter. So this is a warning from Allah. And this teaches us that Muslims should not be more Roman than the Romans themselves. And in a lot of cases, you find Muslims trying to defend and trying to protect. They're trying to go out of their way to please the non-Muslims. Even if it means that they will distort Islam. No, this is unacceptable. The non-Muslims will not be comfortable until they turn you on your heels, until they make you reject your faith. And it started in Europe, for example, with the problem of the veil. And are you part of us? Have you integrated? Are you considered to be citizens? You have to take off the veil. For women, that is, of course, not for men. And I've seen so many programs on the BBC, on elsewhere, condemning the veil and making this piece of cloth the only difference between the Britishers and Islam. And if you go with this, hypothetically, and take off the veil, they will say, well, we have the head cover. And if you take off the head cover, well, you're wearing long sleeves.
Yeah, they'll find something else.
It goes on and on and on, and they will not ever accept you for what you are. And this is written in black and white for Muslims.
Also, just to add to that, it's not as if they perceive these things. Some part of unbelief, which I've experienced before I embraced Islam, is also ignorance, because sometimes you don't know what you are against. And all this expeditions that you're explaining to us, the polytheists, they can't see it the way the Muslims see it. That's why they're attacking Islam. Why are you attacking us at this particular time? Why are you're supposed to be religious, you're supposed to be people that we've suppressed. And it takes some kind of retaliation to open their own eyes.
And it's true. And they keep on getting this allegation of, if you slap me on the cheek, I'm going to give you the other cheek. Well, they've slapped us left, right, and center, and we're out of cheeks. So you cannot ask them, after 13 years of being oppressed, not to retaliate. This is their God-given right to do. And coming back again, it is the practice of the non-Muslims. You either follow our way, or there are no compromises. In Islam, it's different. You're not forced to convert or to revert to Islam. You may accept your religion as it is. No one is forcing you to change it, but do not stand as an obstacle, as a hurdle to the spread of Islam. Do not be offensive to Islam or hostile to Islam, and you are in the safe. And throughout history, this was the case. You are not hostile to Islam. You practice, you live, and you do whatever you want in your life.
But it's hard to protect that hostility amongst non-Muslims when you have media machines or propagandas which fuel the people's mind who want to know about Islam, but they're always hearing that Islam is this, Islam is that. But I'm sure the people for themselves, if they was to bear witness amongst their own experience to the propaganda, is totally different.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that it's easy to blame people, rather than to do something to change their way of thinking. That is why, though we agree that it's the media role in stereotyping and brainwashing the heads of people and how they conceive Muslims, it is our duty to show them otherwise. It's our duty to portray the real practice of Islam as Muslims. To show them that we do not lie, we do not cheat, we do not steal, we do not fornicate, we do not drink intoxicants, we're honest, we're on time. By doing this, they would have no way to think otherwise. But if we promote violence, or if we give excuses to terrorist attacks by saying, well, if they were not oppressed, they would not have done this. No, this is not acceptable. Two wrongs never make a right. So we say that this is wrong, and we also say that oppression is wrong. But we do not justify this with that.
Yes. Yes. Just to add, I was going to say, the non-Muslims also, because of their lack of understanding of Islam as a foundation, what they receive is something that they build on. So convincing them will take a lot of work, even though it's not impossible, but it just adds to the difficult task the Muslims have. And even in terms of what the Muslims do wrong themselves, there are Muslims who fornicate, there are Muslims who do what they shouldn't do. But again, this is the nature of the human being.
It's true. But I think it is not a priority to call people to Islam. Our priority is to ask the people to observe us as we are practicing our deen. See, a lot of the Muslims think otherwise. They set the priority to call people to Islam. Instead, our priority is to practice Islam. And if we practice Islam, this would be the best way of calling people to Islam. And going back to this detachment of Nakhla, once this verse was revealed, the Prophet ﷺ gave the blood money to Amr ibn al-Hadrami, because he was killed in the sacred month. So he gave his family, though they were polytheists, he gave them the blood money, and he set free the 2 prisoners that he took. And from this, 8 expeditions and 8 detachments, we learn that there was no bloodshed, except in this one, where Amr ibn al-Hadrami died. There were no looting, there were no attacks, it were only skirmishes, and nothing materialized. This was also the result of 13 years of oppression. I'm afraid that this is all the time we have for today's program. So inshallah, until we meet next time, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.